What if the one thing you are like hyper focusing on to fix your golf swing, the club head, is actually the exact thing keeping you from improving? I mean, think about it. It is a super familiar scene at practically every driving range on the planet.
Oh, yeah. Constantly.
Right. You hit a bad shot, you immediately step back, pull out your phone, scrub through a slow motion video of your swing, and you just zoom right in on that shiny piece of metal, looking at the angle of the shaft or the face angle at impact.
Well, and it feels so analytical, right? Like so scientific.
Exactly. Like you are doing exactly the right thing to fix that slice.
Yeah, but we are highly visually oriented creatures. Naturally, we want to look at the instrument striking the ball. But scientifically speaking, in the realm of biomechanics, when you do that, you are staring exclusively at the symptom. You are completely ignoring the cure.
So true. Well, welcome to this deep dive into the mechanics of the golf swing. Today, we are pulling from a really fascinating breakdown of sports science called hand path, body motion, and club control. And our mission today is to, well, shift your focus completely away from the golf club itself. We want to decode the underlying biomechanical chain that actually dictates a premium, repeatable swing.
Because the truth is, the club is just a piece of metal and graphite.
Yeah.
I mean, it does not move on its own.
It doesn't.
It is entirely at the mercy of your hands. The hands are your absolute, your only physical connection to that golf club. The club is just responding to the inputs it receives.
Right.
So if you want to understand why your club head is doing something erratic, you have to realize that it's just the final expression of a much larger movement system.
Yeah, and the overarching theme our sources are demanding here is a complete shift in your diagnostic mindset. As a golfer, you really need to stop asking, what is the club doing? And you need to start asking, what are the hands doing and what is causing them to move that way? Because those hands are controlling everything. The direction, the speed, the depth, the height, and the timing of the club.
Yeah, as your hands move through space, the handle of the club changes position. And when the handle changes position, the shaft responds. And then finally, the club head reacts to all of that, plus, momentum.
So it's a chain reaction.
Very much so. So if your hands move efficiently, the club is going to follow a functional path, approach the ball properly, and deliver a square face. But if the hands move inefficiently, you are instantly forced to compensate just to make contact.
When you put it like that, obsessing over the club head feels like a driver complaining about the steering wheel violently vibrating on the highway and trying to fix it by just gripping the wheel harder.
Right, yeah.
When the actual problem is that the car's wheel alignment is totally broken. The steering wheel is just the indicator telling you there's a problem elsewhere.
That is a highly accurate way to look at it. The steering wheel isn't the root cause of the vibration, just like the club head isn't the root cause of a slice.
But, okay, if we follow that analogy to its logical conclusion, and if the hands are the ones steering the club, do we just need to train the hands better? Like, is building a perfect golf swing simply a matter of developing incredible hand-eye coordination?
That is the exact trap a lot of amateur golfers fall into. But the sports science says no.
No.
Because just like the club doesn't operate in a vacuum, your hands don't operate in a vacuum either. To understand what your hands are doing, you have to understand your entire body's movement system. The hands are essentially being told what to do by the body.
Right, and this is where we really need to dive into the actual science of the kinematic sequence. In the past, I've heard people describe this as a domino effect, where one piece knocks over the next. But reading through this biomechanical research, that doesn't seem accurate at all.
Not really, no.
Because dominoes fall at a constant speed, and this sequence is all about acceleration and energy transfer.
Yeah, a much better way to visualize the kinematic sequence is cracking a bullwhip.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, the handle of the whip moves first, then it violently decelerates, transferring all that stored energy down the leather until it snaps at the very tip. If the handle of the whip, which is your body, moves poorly or stops at the wrong time, the tip of the whip, the club head, has absolutely no speed or control.
It just kind of flops.
Exactly. It is a chain reaction of energy transfer. Body motion creates arm motion, which dictates the hand path, which changes the handle direction, which finally results in the club response.
Let's actually break down the specific links in this chain, starting from the ground up, because the sources get very granular here.
They do. So the sequence begins with the pelvis. The pelvis initiates the movement, transferring energy to the rib cage.
Okay.
Then the rib cage rotates and passes that energy to the shoulder complex. The shoulders propel the arms dictate the hand path, the hands change the handle direction, and finally the club responds.
Wow.
Each segment is the foundation for the next. The body creates the environment in which the hands move.
Wait, so if I'm understanding the physics here, if just one of those lower segments, let's say the pelvis, fires incorrectly, it essentially guarantees the hands are going to end up in the wrong place.
Oh, absolutely. Let's trace a specific flaw through that exact chain. Say you start your downswing and your pelvis rotates way too aggressively, too early.
Yeah.
You're trying to generate immense power from the ground, so you just spin your hips as fast as you can.
Yeah, a classic move for anyone trying to crush a drive on the first tee.
Very common. I mean, we see it all the time. But biomechanically, when the pelvis spins out that aggressively, it forces the rib cage to open early to try and keep up.
Ah, okay.
And because the rib cage is open and turning ahead of schedule, the arms get pulled outward, away from your torso. When the arms move outward, they physically push the hands outward toward the golf ball.
And the consequence of that outward push is immediate, right? The handle of the club moves out, which forces the shaft of the club to steepen dramatically.
You got it.
So the golfer who's spending months out on the range, filming their swing, trying desperately to manually flatten their steep club shaft, is actually fighting a completely losing battle. The real error happened half a second earlier in their hips.
Yep.
That completely changes how you have to diagnose a swing.
Well, yeah, they are fighting the laws of physics at that point. If your rib cage and arms have pushed your hands out, you cannot physically shallow the club in a stable, repeatable way.
Wow.
The hands are actually responding correctly to an inefficient body pattern.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot just tell the student to, fix their hands. The deeper movement source has to be identified.
That makes total sense. We keep talking about the hands being at the mercy of the body, but I want to look closer at the actual path the hands take. Because when we hear the phrase hand path, it's really easy to picture a two-dimensional circle, like a Ferris wheel going back and forth around the golfer's body.
Right, but the hand path is entirely three-dimensional. Throughout the swing, your hands are moving inward and outward, upward and downward, toward and away from the target.
That's a lot of variables.
It is. They are constantly changing distance from your torso and moving at vastly different speeds depending on the specific phase of the swing.
Now, the sources highlight one specific phase as the absolute make-or-break moment, the transition. That split second at the top of the swing where the backswing becomes the downswing. The research emphasizes that right here, the hands must reorganize inward and downward before they accelerate outward.
Yeah, this is where so many amateur swings fall apart, and it's where premium ball strikers really separate themselves.
Well, let me act as the proxy for the beginner golfer here. Because if my entire goal is to hit the ball sitting on the ground in front of me, logic dictates that when I get to the top of the swing, I should take the shortest, most direct route to the target and just throw my hands directly at the ball.
Sure.
Why wouldn't I want to do that?
Well, I mean, it seems logical to take a straight line to the target, but biomechanically, it's a disaster. Oh, yeah. If you throw your hands outward directly toward the ball too early from the top of the swing, a chain reaction of terrible things happens. First, as we just discussed, the shaft steepens instantly. Second, your trail elbow is going to separate and disconnect from your body.
Which means you lose all your space. You're going to feel incredibly cramped and, jammed up at impact.
Exactly. And worst of all, the club face becomes nearly impossible to control.
Yeah.
You're basically guaranteeing a slice or a pull because the club's approaching from way outside the target line.
Ah, the dreaded over-the-top move.
Precisely. However, when the hands lower during that transition, it gives the club the time and the space it needs to shallow out and organize itself behind your body.
I am having a hard time visualizing this, honestly. When the research says the hands need to move inward and downward during the transition, what does that actually look like in 3D space? Am I actively pulling my hands down to my right pocket? Am I dropping them straight toward the ground?
No. That is a crucial distinction. You're not manually pulling your arms down to your pocket. Think of inward as moving closer to the center of your torso, and downward as lowering relative to your shoulders. But this inward and downward movement shouldn't be forced in isolation.
It shouldn't.
No, it should naturally emerge because your rib cage is rotating, pressure is transferring into your laid foot, your lead arm is interacting with your chest, and gravity is doing its job. The hand path is just a natural consequence of that complete body transition.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense. It's an emergent property of the body shifting weight and turning, not a conscious yank of the arms.
Right.
But what about when we finally get down to the ball, the impact phase? because conventional wisdom often talks about releasing the club or snapping the wrists at the bottom to generate speed, almost like you're slamming on the brakes with your hands to let the club whip past.
Yeah, that force release concept is incredibly dangerous for consistency.
Really?
Through impact, the hands absolutely must continue moving. Your body has to keep rotating, your arms keep extending, and your hands must continue traveling around your body and upward after the strike.
So the golf ball isn't a finish line. It just happens to get in the way of this continuous motion.
That's a great way to put it. Keeping the hands moving around and upward is what maintains your handle speed. It stabilizes the club face. It controls your low point, ensuring you hit the ball before you hit the turf.
Right, no chunked shots.
Exactly. If you drag your hands excessively forward, or if you just let them stop and become passive to, flip the club at the ball, you lose all energy transfer and all face stability.
And even if you master that continuous hand path, you aren't completely out of the woods. The source material adds another layer of complexity here, which is wrist conditions. The hands are moving the club through space, but they're also influencing its orientation.
Yes. This is where we look at the hands as both movers and organizers. You can have two golfers with the exact same beautiful biomechanically sound 3D hand path, but they might deliver the club to the ball completely differently because of their wrists.
The terminology in the text gets pretty technical here. Flexion, extension, bowing, cupping, trail wrist bend, forearm rotation. How do these wrist conditions actually translate to what the club face is doing?
Well, it all comes down to the mechanism of the lead wrist. The left wrist for a right-handed golfer.
Okay.
If you bow your lead wrist, meaning you flex it inward toward your inner forearm, you are actively closing the club face. If you cup it, meaning you bend the back of your hand toward your outer forearm, you open the club face.
So that's the microcontrol.
Right. You can have a flawless kinematic sequence and a perfect body turn.
Yeah.
But if your lead wrist cups right at impact, that club face is wide open, and you're going to slice the ball into the next fairway. So a complete analysis has to look at the path of the hands, the speed of the hands, and those microscopic wrist conditions presenting the face to the ball.
Yeah. Knowing how complex this entire system is really illuminates why so much conventional golf advice just flat out fails. I mean, we've all heard the quick fixes at the driving range, right? Just drop the club into the slot or feel like you're sliding the shaft down a specific pane of glass.
Yeah, those tips are the definition of isolated manipulations.
Yeah.
You were trying to consciously force a piece of metal into a position while completely ignoring the body movement that is supposed to carry it there.
And even if you manage to manually force your hands to drop the club in the slot for one swing, it lacks any stability. You can't repeat it under pressure because your body's sequence is still fighting against it.
Exactly. The professional diagnostic process completely abandons those isolated manipulations. Instead, it works backward up the chain we discussed earlier.
Right, step by step.
Yeah. First, you observe the club pattern. What is the symptom? Is the club steep? Is the face open? Second, you identify the specific hand path that is causing that club pattern.
Okay, tracing it back.
Third, you evaluate the arms and shoulders to see why the hands are moving that way. Fourth, you analyze the rib cage and pelvis. Fifth, you determine exactly where that sequence broke down.
Yeah.
And finally, you correct the earliest meaningful cause.
It's incredible, but it's one thing to understand this chain reaction intellectually, right? How do we actually overwrite years of bad muscle memory when we step onto the range? Like, how do we feel the sequence?
Well, the source material, the source material actually provides a specific, actionable framework for this called the hand path awareness drill.
Right, yes.
And it's an excellent drill because it forces you to slow down and map the physical sensation of the movement in your brain rather than just, hitting ball after ball on autopilot.
I really want to make sure I'm visualizing this correctly, so walk me through it. Let's say I'm at the range, I've got a short iron or a mid iron, I take my normal setup. What is the first move?
First, you make a very slow backswing and you stop entirely when your lead arm is parallel to the ground.
Okay, so I am paused halfway back. What am I looking for?
You are just observing where your hands are in relation to your rib cage. You are establishing spatial awareness.
Got it.
From there, you continue to the top of your swing. But the key here is to let your body's rotation dictate how deep your hands go. Do not artificially pull your arms behind you to feel a bigger turn. The turn of your body organizes where your hands stop.
Okay, now we are at the top. This is the transition phase we talked about earlier where everything goes wrong for most people.
Yes, this is the most crucial move of the drill. You begin the downswing slowly, and you actively focus on feeling the hands move slightly inward and downward as your rib cage begins to rotate toward the target.
And remember, you do not push the handle at the ball.
Exactly. You feel the hands lower naturally as the body opens up.
And then through impact, I'm just letting those hands move around and upward like we discussed. I'm not snapping my wrists or trying to force a release.
Correct. You want to do this without a ball first. 2 to 3 sets of 8 to 10 slow repetitions. You have to ingrain the movement pattern before you introduce the stress of actually hitting something.
Right, because then panic sets in.
Exactly. When you do finally introduce a golf ball, hit short shots at about 50% speed.
The key sensation you are chasing, the absolute golden rule to take away from this drill is that the body organizes the hands and the hands organize the club.
Beautifully said.
Yeah.
The hands should move independently from the body, but they also shouldn't be totally dead and passive. They respond to the larger segments of your body while maintaining control of that handle. When you practice this way, it reduces that excessive steepening, it stabilizes the club face, and it creates a highly repeatable swing pattern.
Because you are relying on big, stable body movements instead of tiny, panic-driven hand compensations. When the pressure is on during a round, your body sequence will hold up much better than your hand-eye coordination trying to save a bad swing.
It builds reliability through applied biomechanics. You stop treating the final symptom and start improving the entire system.
Bringing this all together, the central principle of everything we've looked at today really requires a massive paradigm shift. Do not study the golf club in isolation. The complete movement has to be understood as one connected system. You have to understand your body so you can organize your hands. You organize your hands so you can control the club. You refine that movement and you master the game.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, it raises an important question to leave you with. We talked about the kinematic sequence starting from the ground up.
Yeah.
The pelvis, the ground forces.
Right.
If the hands are simply messengers between the body's ground forces and the golf club, well, how much of what we physically feel in our hands during a perfectly struck shot is actually just the echo of a perfect weight shift in our feet? Next time you hit a pure shot, ask yourself where that feeling actually started. Was it really in your hands, or was it in the ground?
What a visual. Staring at the club head really is like staring at the symptom. Stop looking at the shiny object and start feeling the sequence. If you found today's episode valuable, please subscribe to our channel. Every subscription helps us continue producing high-quality educational content for golfers and coaches worldwide. If you have a question, topic, idea, or golf challenge you would like us to research, test, and explain, please leave a comment, contact us on LinkedIn, or send us an email. Don't forget to explore the eCoach 360-degree Golf Intelligence platform and experience our 48-hour free trial. You can also join our 30-day Golf Biomechanics, Kinematics, Ground Reaction Forces, and Club Kinematics certification program to deepen your understanding of golf performance.